Hey, good morning, YouTube. What's going on out there? How's everybody doing? Welcome to Friday. We made it. Somewhat, at least in one piece so far. We're here. Thanks for checking in. Looks like I got a couple people. Tommy Boy checked in just a second ago, but looks like he had to go clean up and go to the store. Rough day. It's rough being retired, apparently. Hey, good morning, Angel R. Down there in sunny Florida. Looks like you guys are living large. compared to the rest of us dealing with the rest of this madness, which storms coming across the country there in the middle. Iron Witch, good morning. How you doing? Black Cat Outdoors is with us. Good morning. Looks like you got snow right over top of you, Black Cat. Just a little bit. It's just for you. Dissipates, it looks like. But hey, it's Friday. What's going on? Anybody got any good news? The government's still shut down. I guess that's as good as it gets. So, well, supposedly shut down. It's shut down enough to make everybody gnash their teeth in angst. It's funny how we seem to have the Hegelian dialectic being utilized right in front of us, giving people the option of either you can have the wall or you can starve. Seems to be the line they're going after with this whole debacle. The went through the chat yesterday at lunch about the media hyping up the effect of the shutdown economically, and they're full court pressing on the dire impacts, which leads me to believe if anything economically comes about in the next couple of months, they're going to blame it all on this shutdown and all the tail end effects that came after it, and blame it all on the shutdown when it's just purely the way it's going to work out. Markets are just slightly down. It's interesting that the markets haven't really responded to this government shutdown. It's almost like they know that government shutdown doesn't affect them. Oil is back up above $50 a barrel, though. It's went up quite a bit this week. So our gas prices will probably start edging back up, even though they hadn't even went down around here, really. I mean, they went. I had seen some places actually we got below $2.50 a gallon, but I know a lot of places they're down in the under $2. I wish we could get down in that range. But the shutdown without pay thing is getting a lot of people fired up, and the joke of it being over $5 billion is even more laughable. So it makes you wonder what the real it's just more try to entrench everybody on a side to get people on their team to move forward. It seems like not a lot of unification going on out there. Angel says it's cold over there. You had to break out the animal skins to keep warm. I have a hard time believing that. Iron Witch says it's 25 in his house. Iron Witch, I'm pretty sure if it was 25 degrees where he was, he wouldn't be on here. He would be in his SHTF plan and fully in his bunker if it was 25 degrees down there where he's at. He couldn't handle that, I don't think. But one of the big problems with this wall, and Drudge has got a couple of links here on it that I have, is the eminent domain they're using to seize property from people to, and they're not even using eminent domain. They're just condemning property to not have to pay landowners fair market value for their land or any other way for this dumb idea of a wall to get put in. That's one of the big things about this. I posted that on the YouTube, and now that officially it looks like G Plus is gone. If you didn't get the word, it looks like G Plus is done. You still have, if you're in the Liberty and Firearms community or the what's the name of it? wasn't the Green Dragon Tavern community. It was what was G's community called? Angel, where everybody's posting still. The communities still exist, but G Plus is gone. It looks like. And that's the only place you can post things is in communities. People Taverns chats, the People's Tavern chats. You can still post, but if you're not part of those communities, I don't know if you can get on them anymore and how you're going to get an ID because everything before was tied to G Plus. So it's probably just a matter of days before all that stuff breaks down. So you can check us out on the YouTube communities, which they're still trying to play with. It's not the best because you don't get notifications. But here's the biggest problem is Trump is flexing his muscles. He knows how to use the government to steal people's lands. He's been doing that for years. This is one of the big concerns we had when he was running for election is his propensity for seizure of land. He had no respect for private property. This is one fellow's story about this in this article here, shared off the Drudge. But he's not selling, he says. But they'll condemn his property and take it from him. There was a story we did the other day about folks who they condemned their property and wanted to reimburse them like $250 on the acre or something like that, or something ridiculous. It wasn't even close to what you would call fair market value, but once they condemn it, there is no value. If you know what I mean. So I don't know. People won't defend other people's property when they're trying to protect their precious wall agenda. But put that in this description box. Says here, opposition will intensify if Democrats accede to the Trump administration's demand to build more than 215 miles of new wall, including 104 miles in the Rio Grande Valley and 55 miles near Laredo. Even a compromise solution to build steel slats, as Trump has suggested, or more fencing of that kind would likely trigger more court cases and pushback in Texas. Legal experts say Trump likely cannot waive eminent domain, which requires the government to demonstrate a public use for the land and provide landowners with compensation. But they're saying he can't waive eminent domain by declaring a national emergency, which that's probably yeah. Do you want to get in that fight? They think they can stop you on the side of the road and seize your property. What makes you think they can't? They don't think they can just walk into your property and take your property for national emergency purposes. The best thing to do is, you want to build your wall, people that want it voluntarily put it on their property, fine. And see the results that come after that, I guess. I still like the idea. Hey, Jay Thornton just did a video. He doesn't do them very often. Jay Thornton did a video yesterday talking about putting the military out there, and that's the vote. It's already a resource we already have. We don't have to argue about it. We take them from places they shouldn't be, put them where they should be, and problem solved. But everybody wants to argue over this wall idea. It is what it is, I guess. Yes. Hey, Delaware Patriot. Good morning. Good morning. Yeah, acquiring land is something they excel at, right? They go back into some of the history of it. So Congress did approve $1.6 billion in March
that are being used to build 25 miles of wall in Hidalgo County, which runs north of the Rio Grande in Texas, it looks like. So that's just a portion of that. Congress did not allow construction of any of the wall prototypes. One of the places, it looks like in the way of eminent domain, is a Catholic chapel that was opened in 1865. It looks like they're going to take down historical landmarks as well. So that's going to be an easy trigger point to get everybody's emotions all up. They're finding lots of emotional arguments to get people on one side or the other on this whole deal. Meanwhile, they're starving the other half and sending them right into the arms of the Democratic Party. Because who else will will give them their food stamps, etc. Hey, good morning, Wes S. Yeah, Black Cat G Plus was still around until last night, I believe. I believe it's done. Wes S says Laredo needs the wall, probably the worst place for quote unquote bad immigrants. When Texas seceded from the Union in 1861, one reason they listed was lack of federal securing the border against bandits. That was 150 years ago, right? Yeah, right, Iron Witch. It's always could always be used as a well, and that goes back to the responsibility of the federal government to begin with in the Constitution too, of protection against foreign invasion. If a state signs on to that, they're thinking they're not responsible for their border anymore, international border, right? Well, the centralized federal government has failed in that literally since then, Iron Witch, you're right. I guess the one exception was briefly when we went after Pancho Villa and the problems back there in like what 1912 something, way back there. You know, it's one of the few times we actually were aggressive in defending our borders. It makes a strong case for dissolution of the union, so states can do their own necessary means because they signed over that responsibility to the federal government. They're failing in doing any of that. You know, West says he lost his job because I refused to keep my mouth shut over that particular situation. Oh, the one above. You can go south of the border and buy kids basically at a brothel. Well, that's not a good situation, right? In the case that there are, well, it looks like were you working in a business where you went back and forth across the border there, Wes? Was that the deal? Or because people that you worked with were involved in it? It looks like G Plus is up now. Yeah, it looks like I just posted this when the chat came on, posted over there. There's a couple other posts now, but last night it was all sideways. But it's supposed to be going away anyway, but it doesn't look like it's still up. But anyway. Angel R says, we don't need a wall. Let Americans shoot invaders on sight, and the invasion would just drop overnight. Yeah, that was kind of Jay Thornton's angle, Angel, when Jay Thornton did his video. He was talking about building guard towers, which would probably be a little excessive. You could just put FOBs out there, small bases, I think, and operate out of those, especially as remote as that is. And you'd be good. You really don't need any construction of that magnitude. Bunch of guard towers all up and down, I don't think. $500 an ear, is that what you're saying, Iron Witch? $500 an ear, huh? Yeah, people would ask you, how do you know if they're illegal or not? Well, if they're in an area where there's no border crossing, where there's no border control measures, then it's illegal crossing. That's how you know. Fairly straightforward process. It's not difficult. But this wedge issue is going to continue for a long time. Everybody's on milk it for further pulling to one side or the other, it looks like, instead of exposing the feds for the problem they are. Everybody's going to pick a side. Even though Tommy's not in here, check out the markets. It's like we're opening slightly down still. Once it gets started here in a couple minutes, gets this party started. But what else is going on out there? Anybody got any good information? Good fight, the good fight. Good morning. And catch and release. Sanctuary cities, chain migration. But more sanctuary cities have been declared, right? Yeah, there's two. That's just further proof that we can't restore this country to any semblance of what it was before. There's too much division, and I guess different ideas is one way to say it. But yeah, some people offering full sanctuary immunity and benefits to anybody who just shows up, going pretty much against the what you could call terms of the union, and those who are fully entrenched in trying to stop those things like you mentioned, but the way they're going about it is not living up to the principles either. 10,000 for a MS-13 tattoo. That'd be a good start. Now, hey, that might I might find some job opportunities if you start doing stuff like that. That'd be good hunting weather right there. Wouldn't matter, rain or shine. Brexit may be delayed. Brexit probably will not happen the way they've dragged their feet with that situation. British people are getting screwed. I don't know if they're going to do what Paris is going to do or not. Yeah, Angel, I don't think we need none of that. Not going to force anybody to fight for entertainment. Thing is, Iron Witch, it doesn't even need to get to that. We don't need a civil war. We just need dissolution. We just need to dissolve the union and people go their own way. But there's not enough leadership in the states to do it. There's not enough ideals and principles at the state level to do it. So we're stuck in this conundrum of corruption and mismanagement with everybody trying to pick a side instead of just going their own way. System that we're stuck in. That's why it's just all going to fall apart without any no orderly dissolution, mass chaos instead. Sounds like a much better alternative, right? That's what everybody's pretty much supporting by continuing to prop up one side or the other. They're supporting violent chaos in the end instead of orderly dissolution. Right, exactly. Midwest, civil unrest over civil war. That's where we're going because we don't have enough principles out there. Nor you're a good speller. Spelling's supposed to be challenging this early in the morning. It's all good. Hey, Barry Wood, good morning. How you doing? Like you're getting a lot of rain coming off the coast up there, all up and down through Canada. The whole coast range looks like it's getting pounded with snow and rain. So this was an interesting story, and it's been talked about a little bit, various videos, but the Yellow Vests are planning a bank run in France. Now, the Yellow Vest protests have been very decentralized to this point. There's been very little leadership, if you will. It's kind of just been mass show up and do your thing. There's not been a lot of speeches or nothing like that at these events. There's not like any leadership like we thought of the Tea Party as having certain key leaders. It hasn't been like that. But somebody floated the idea, I guess, within the group of doing a bank run, a mass withdrawals from banks this weekend in particular, I believe. And that's really going to put that is something that really could get to the point of causing some problems, if you will. And it's going to be problems from everybody. It's not like it's, it's going to put the banks in a pinch, but banks have those extreme measures that they will always protect themselves first. The people are definitely going to suffer in the long run, but if, you got to choose a side, I guess, at this point. Like when I talk about the chaos, above, earlier, that's the case. That's the point it's at. Either you accept more centralized government control, or you understand that this the chaos that's going to come out of a potential bank run is the other path. I mean, which way do you go? That is the situation in France. Here's an interesting story. It says the Yellow Vest movement has vandalized nearly 60% of France's countrywide speed camera network. That'll put a crimp in government spending, right? Can't have that revenue coming in if they do it like we do it. I don't know if they make money off their speed cameras or not. But what's that got to do with a bank run? Come on, let's get to the point. Speed limits in France have become a hot button topic. See, I like the French are doing it right. They're going after the root of the problems. They're not they're walking around the middle of the street, I guess, was to gain attention, but it wasn't really going after the problems. But they're now honing their delivery system, going after some of the problems. But it says here the speed limits were a hot button topic after the Macron government lowered the limit on many roads from 55 miles per hour to 50 miles per hour early last year. Yeah, which almost seems like a money grab, right? Like you're lowering the speed limit. Like who does that? Especially nationwide on many roads. Doesn't happen a whole lot, especially in the U.S. But you can see how that would be perceived as a money grab to bring in more fees from infringements, right? But Yellow Vest protesters upset over fuel taxes have also complained about the rising cost of commuting for those who can't afford to live near urban centers, citing speed cameras and toll roads as their complaints. Now let's get to the bank run. While the Yellow Vest movement has been taking to the streets for violent clashes with French police, activists from the movement are now recommending that French protesters empty their bank accounts to spark a bank run, in a move which one protester says Maxime Nicole, which is probably not said like that at all. If it's said in French, it's probably said much more eloquently than I just said it. No habla français. Called it a tax collectors referendum. We're going to get our bread back. You're making money with our dough, and we're fed up. Okay, so it looks like a leader of sorts has emerged. This is a video message reported by the AP. So this is a potential protest leader, I guess. Or maybe it's just a YouTube video. Who knows? It says video message, so I guess it could just be something on the internet. The movement's adherents said they hope the banking action will force the French government to heed their demands, especially giving citizens the right to propose and vote on new laws. And while outraged Yellow Vests continue their protest, the Macron government is scrambling to calm down the anti-government movement with a series of economic measures which have thus far proven ineffective, also known as bribery. Trying to bribe their way out of it. Prime Minister Edouard Philippe gave details of a big debate the government plans to start next week in all the regions of France. We want to be rich, impartial, and fruitful. I guess they want to have a big debate. I'm not sure. The debate's four main topics: climate change, democratic issues, taxes, and public services. This is what the Prime Minister said. Anyone can propose a local event, and an internet platform will provide another venue for discussion. So they want to talk about it. Macron also announced $2 billion worth of measures to boost the purchasing power of French households. This is all via the Associated Press, reported here on the Zero Hedge. This write-up. Around 200 Yellow Vest protesters, which included union trade members, gathered in the Paris suburb of Créteil as Macron visited a handball facility that turned into a handball gymnasium. What? Okay, yeah, that's a good question. So they were nearby when he was there in town, I guess. But a bank run concept, I don't know how organized that is, if people take that seriously. But if there were, 100,000 protesters in Paris alone one time, and they're talking about, there were tens of thousands of others in various places around the country. If you get, that number of people drawing that much money out, all their money out, especially, they're probably going to get harassed like it is in America when you go to try to draw your money out. You get questioned and treated like a terrorist. But I'm sure they see that coming and would drag their heels if nothing else. If you did attempt to draw your money out, I don't know how much the French keep in the bank. They're probably like Americans. Most of their stuff is in there to pay for automatic payments and stuff, and nobody carries cash anymore hardly. So it's all a bunch of digits on a computer to most people. But if you go to draw it out, what's the average? I know the French get a lot more vacation time. Maybe they're all saving up for their vacations and they keep it in the bank. So that could potentially be quite a big cash dollar amount, especially if you get some high-profile business type people pulling their cash out of the bank. Could cause problems. The banks have definitely gotten too much importance over what they're supposed to be. They're supposed to serve their customers, and it's flipped on its head where now everybody's just servants to the banks. That's definitely the crux of almost all Western society's problems is the central banking network. Banks used to provide that community service, like in what was that movie? Not a White Christmas. I can't remember the name of it, but anyway, yeah, they used to be community good that can be done by pooling and saving and protecting people's money. Now they issue the money from the bank and penalize you otherwise if you don't. So where we're at nowadays. But we'll see what happens with that. That would be interesting if they were able to make him a little bit nervous. That would definitely have wide sweeping effects, just like we talked about yesterday. All these government funds that aren't getting doled out could have widespread, long-lasting economic effects with people not getting rent money, people not buying gas, people not going shopping, and the numbers bump up and up. I mean, it's in the hundreds of thousands in many, many states. So we can make all the jokes we want. We just need to understand that the potential there is for some widespread financial pain to develop out of these issues and the government shutdown. You don't have to take a side to understand that and prepare accordingly. Go back in the side chat. Midwest says, how much are they offering to leave Germany? You will fly over and convert. What? I must have missed something. I didn't go back far enough, did I? Angel Ars, you guys are way. Oh, third option checked in with us. What's going on, third? How you doing? I can't drive 55, right? Yeah. I wonder if the French know about that song. Put up, right? Make that one of their theme songs. There you go. Delaware, time to pull the dang plug, right? Let it all circle the drain. Well, there was an article earlier in the week called "Circling the Drain" about how everything is kind of speeding up, going down the drain. How the water speeds up as it gets closer to the drain. That's where we're at. Third option, bribing people with their own money, right? Irony. Germany is offering money for the Muslims to go home. Are they? Is that right, Wes? I haven't seen that. Or did I skip over it? I have not heard that they're actually doing that. That is fairly surprising. Germany's kind of been at the lead of all that touchy-feely, maybe shortly behind Sweden and the Scandinavian states, but Germany was like in the lead of all open arms, especially, I mean, the problems with the Turks coming in back in the 70s. This has been a long-standing agenda to bring in populations from all over. But yeah, that's interesting that they would actually offer money. But once people get entrenched and live that good, nice welfare state lifestyle in these socialist countries, like why would they go back? Have you been to Egypt or Lebanon or Iran or Turkey? Or, I mean, live in Germany, live in Saudi Arabia. Tough choice there. Yeah, I think I'm good in Dusseldorf. I think I'll stay here. I couldn't imagine. I mean, yeah, that's the conundrum they're going to be stuck with. There ain't nobody going to take that offer. That would be insanity. You'd be stupid to do that. Just out of your own comfort and just for the, you've invited the invaders in. You're going to have to deal with it, and that's going to be a problem throughout Europe. Good morning, Alicia. Toxic Threads is with us. Would have been cheaper to not let them in, right, Delaware? Right. It's amazing. The Austrians basically saved Western Europe. What was it, 1650 or something? Whatever year that was when they stopped the invaders, the Ottoman Turks, down there in I can't remember the exact battle, but it was stopped there in Austria, and now they just let them waltz on in without a fight. It's like they've forgotten history worse than the Americans in some respects. Fight the kid. 45 in the fast lane means they're on their cell phone. These people need smacked upside their head. Oh, third option. What kind of movie are you talking about? Shaq kicking it on down here. Hey, Chad Lilly, what is going on, sir? Haven't seen you in about 10 minutes. Been a lot longer than a minute. How you doing? Good to see you. Hopefully you're doing well. Like you're getting lots of rain and weather up in your direction, depending on where you are now, I guess. Things change. But thanks for checking in. Hope you're doing well, no doubt. Fight the Good Fight says, I'm already affected by the shutdown. Doesn't matter. Really can't get much worse. Well, I wouldn't say it really can't get much worse because it definitely can, but it's good to know what your exposures are. And there you go, Angel R. That's the conundrum they're going to put people in, and that makes me wonder. I didn't get around to it, but who proposed this bank run idea? Are they trying to catch people in a catch-22? Because, like you said, they can use it as an excuse to get rid of cash and use only electronic means, because it puts too many people in a powerful position, I guess you would say, to use cash. It's not even real money anymore, but it's cash. But it has that power of putting the banks in the bind. The people who've been manipulating and corrupting the system don't want to have to pay the price, so they're going to make everybody else pay it, because you got to be on this electronic currency now because you've been bad, you've misbehaved by wanting to get your cash to be able to exchange goods and services without being tracked. So here you're going to have to be tracked to exchange goods and services with our electronic currency that we can manipulate far worse than we ever did with physical currency. You're now going to be punished because you're not trustworthy. That's what it's like. It's like the banks to the parent. That's how things are upside down. That's the problem. That's a huge problem. So I can just see the next phase going just like that, Angel. Be just like that. Using it as an excuse to bring in electronic currency because the people are bad and don't know what's good for them. It's not that the people want it. It's not the people pushing it, the consumer, the people that, are the economy. It's the manipulated, structured economy by central banks. Not doing what is right. It's a good point. What did Delaware say about your religion? Oh, Midwest would be accused of cultural and religious appropriation. It's a real thing. 1,000 euros for a single person, 3,000 euros for a family. Which, and you go back to a place like, you go to back roads of Iraq, that's pretty good money to show up with. You have 1,000 euros in your pocket, but you're still living in Iraq or Egypt or Lebanon or wherever they're sending them back to, right? Maybe it's Malaysia or North Africa somewhere, Tunisia, lots of places actually, Libya, Chad, who knows where. That's a pretty good payday to have to show up with, roll in there with, but I can't imagine having the nice life there in the Bavaria. I couldn't imagine moving back out there to the middle of the desert voluntarily. It'd be a tough choice. Love watching the show go down the drain, Chad. That's where we're at. We're circling the drain at the rapid rate, right? Everybody's eating themselves, but everybody's picking a side instead of realizing who the real enemies are, unfortunately. As has been the case, as we've documented on here for a long time, Chad. You remember the old days. Iron Witch says 20 years after the French joined the EU, they were still using the French franc. You seen it firsthand, right? Was this when did the French join the EU? I guess how long ago was that? I remember when I was in Europe, the euro was pretty widely adopted. That was like that was over 10 years ago. The euro was already pretty firmly in place. I know there was a phase out period, but if they're still using it in the like smaller outlying areas, I could see that for sure. Kind of like using cash in America. You don't see it in the big cities, but out in the outlying areas and the communities and whatnot, cash is still pretty popular. And Fight the Good Fight brings up the real point is they set the stage for the Antichrist and the mark of the beast. Because the biggest thing about it is it prevents people from trading. That's the one tell of what the mark of the beast is prohibits people from selling and trading if you don't have it. So yeah, what's next? That's why everyone knows it's going to be electronic RFID of something. Wes S. posted a link to what article? Did you post it on the YouTube community there, Wes? Why are they paying them to leave Toxic? Because they're a net suck on the German economy. They have far too many kids for their welfare state, and they are causing social distress. I would hope that's the reason, at least. One last thing here before we check out. Oh, yeah, Wes, you don't have a hammer, do you? You don't have the wrench to be able to post links. Was it the one about the German story? Germany paying Muslims to go home? Yeah, a good point, Toxic, and that's a problem we have here in America. You can encourage people to use cash. Of course, you get interrogated when you pull it out, like we were talking about last week too. But cops steal it. They seize money at traffic stops all the time. There was a case here in northern Nevada where a sheriff pulled over a fella without justification. He had a high cash dollar amount, like $10,000 some dollars or $30,000 even, but wasn't doing nothing illegal. They just seized it. Yeah, and guy got a lawyer, and pretty sure the sheriff isn't a sheriff anymore. But yeah, how far do you have to wait to get justice on some of that stuff if the court even backs you at all? Because cops have free hand, and they just pick it up and take it. And the thing is, it's your word against theirs. You could say you have 50,000, or like, oh, we only documented 30,000. They're pocketing the rest, just assuming that you're a drug dealer or some nefarious guy when you're considered the bad guy if you're trying to work outside the scope and vision of government. Government shouldn't have that much vision into your life anyway. Problems abound. stupid chip debit cards are a pain. You hate those chip readers? You really hate them that bad, Delaware? I didn't see them as being that hard to use, but okay, if you say so. Angel R says, I don't understand why so many Christians support cryptocurrency when their Bible warns against it. I have not heard, like, well, I guess people that would put Christian in their name, I guess some of them support crypto, but I haven't heard, like, what you would consider a prominent leader supporting cryptocurrency. But I mean, I guess it's possible. But yeah, that definitely goes against what they should understand is coming. But understanding that it's coming is the biggest thing that I think that I look at it when I see about the mark of the beast and the trading issue is that you're going to have to denounce God in order to take that on. That's why it's the mark of the beast. That's kind of my perspective when I look at that. Those verses is it's going to be the mark of the beast because you have to denounce your salvation or God to take it on or to operate in that function in that economy. I think that's why it's such a big piece in there, a big piece of that. That's just the way I look at it when I see that. It's not like they're just going to be able to do it to everybody. People are going to have to willingly take it and know what they're doing when they do take it on. You know, that's what I think. But doesn't seem like we're quite there yet. But they haven't come out with their agenda on how you're going to have to take in your chip either yet. Delaware says he was watching a report that says the cash will probably always exist due to really poor folks and people with bad credit. Well, that's what EBT cards are for, Delaware. That's all part of the test run too. And really, they're working hard to make the government omnipresent. You know, they're gonna, you know, the cash could have a small niche. I mean, bartering still exists too. You know, people still barter for goods and services. People trade, but they make it so economically. You're at a very great disadvantage economically by bartering and trading like that. And they'll probably do the same with cash. It'll be so against your interest to do so that it'll narrow it down to the 99%. Factor. I'm sure they don't think they can get 100%. I think that would, but you'll be ostracized and outcast for not having it. And you definitely won't be able to do anything significantly productive with cash if that's the case moving forward. But down to the point of starving. I mean, they will starve people out to get them to take their chips and their electronic means of tracking and stuff. So don't think it's not coming. So this would be a good day. Things always happen on a Friday, so they can kind of give people the weekend to forget about it, I guess. Will we get a state of emergency on the border? But TSA employees protest for paychecks as the shutdown continues. So the TSA has been walking out in a lot of different places. And I said the other day in a chat, I'd make a Trump statue if TSA is shut down. But the larger issue is if the airlines would get together and do their business model and take over their own security for their own means, we'd go a long way to helping the problem out. I don't know that this will necessarily motivate airlines to do that, but airline authorities, airport authorities, should see the problem in letting the government control their security of their business model and take it over themselves and implement their own, what they see as necessary security. Private airlines don't have this problem. Private airlines work just fine bringing people in and out with very little hassle with their own security measures as they see fit. You know, let TSA roll into Customs and Border Patrol once they fall apart, because they have to fire all these half these people. You know, there's people in high school. You know, you had your people who were going to college, and you know they were going to be successful. You had people that were learning a trade. You had people that were going in the military, and you had people that, you know, were working through high school. And TSA is way down there at the bottom of the people who couldn't even graduate high school. That's the kind of people that TSA takes on. The least capable, the least effective members of society are the ones that get jobs with TSA. You go through a TSA security line and tell me how sharp that crew is. These people aren't responsible enough to be working on and what we consider important security. The average American thinks like TSA's front line. TSA has never stopped a terrorist. Let's just remember that. The counter person in the main airport that stopped the flight hijackers from going to Boston did a better job than any TSA agent has done. That agent in Maine who stopped them and called the central offices, whoever it was in the airlines back in those days, 9/11, stopped that Boston hijacker and called in about it. And they told him to let him go. That was more effective than anything TSA has done. That lady actually did her job because she knew something was out of whack. Saw it coming. I guess I'll end my rant there on the TSA. Not my favorite organization. Right, Midwest, private airlines in and out, no problem, right? Yeah. All right, Wes, have a good one. We'll talk to you later. Have a good weekend if we don't talk to you. I'm sure we'll talk to you over the weekend, though, somewhere. Yeah, right, Delaware. 30 years ago, the notion of a computer in every home was lunacy. Nerds only. Now, pretty much everybody carries a computer with them. Your cell phone in your pocket's far more powerful than any computer we had 30 years ago, Delaware. You know that. I mean, you can live stream a video from your phone. You couldn't do that with computers 30 years ago from your home. you know, dial-up internet, you'd be lucky to even download an email. And now you can shoot text messages back and across as fast as you can type it out. It's crazy. Which is, there's been some benefit to it and being able to communicate and share and stuff, but obviously there's been the negative effects as well. Keep our eye on Venezuela, right? Well, it's interesting to see how much the Chinese and Russians can support them to prop them up. Maduro just got reelected yesterday, sworn back in again. So we'll see how that goes moving forward. We know that Brazil is against them. Colombia is against them. People of Venezuela are suffering. To what end, we don't know. Maduro keeps making stupid decisions like propping up the minimum wage, which only inflates wages and inflates prices and just overall pushes inflation further. Well, Angel, to be fair, you know, while they're talking about the sad people aren't getting paid, this is the longest shutdown ever. So it is a degree more difficult than it has been in the past. Hey, ZPD Survival, good morning. How are you doing up there? Coast Guard furloughs. The Coast Guard is furloughed? Coast Guard civilian employees, right? Because Coast Guard's uniformed. I mean, they're uniformed services. I couldn't imagine them being furloughed, but they're technically part of DHS in peacetime, right? Is that the way it's broken down? And they don't go to the DOD unless it's a wartime, but technically in a wartime too, based upon the War Powers Act, the way the things have been going. But that'd be interesting if the Coast Guard's on, like, Coast Guard, like, uniform members are on furlough. That doesn't make sense. Angel says you got to watch those videos we're posting. Yeah, the ones about Venezuela, Angel. I saw a couple of them, I think. I mean, you have posted several. I don't know that we're that desperate to wedge ourselves into Venezuela. That we're well, I guess the banks could be leveraging themselves into anywhere behind the scenes. We just don't know about it. Wes says, oh, by the way, BTW, by the way, tonight's live stream will be over Cashless Society. So you're running Wes will be running a live stream, it looks like, tonight. More fun and excitement there. Barry says, I'm sure they'll get all the back pay if when this gets resolved. Well, that's not what I'm wondering. Is ZPD talking about Coast Guard uniformed members, like people who actually are in the Coast Guard? You know, there's a difference between Coast Guard civilian employees and just like in the military. It would be very unusual if the Coast Guard uniformed people in uniform are on furlough. That would be unheard of, I guess. Angel says Maduro and his people will stand in solidarity against our proxies. You mean Maduro and the communist elite in Venezuela, you're saying, Angel? I don't think the average Venezuelan cares about anything other than living and working and eating at this point. I don't know that I guess they're proud to be Venezuela. And that's what they were talking about Brazil doing a possible military intervention and stuff. It's like, it doesn't make any sense because you're just going to galvanize the Venezuelan people further towards their leadership to a large degree to resist that, right? The best thing you can do for Venezuelans is just bring food to them, is help them out. I don't know that if it's definitely definitely going to be a bad proposition if they try to go into Venezuela militarily, because you're just going to push more people into the hands of Maduro and that ideology and that way of thinking. And you can easily undermine him with just helping the people out and undermine his authority that way, Doesn't make any sense. Syria 2.0, it hasn't gotten that violent yet. It's hard to, there's not really two sides like in Syria where you had the different insurgents and the extremists going against the government. But it's not like in Colombia where they had the FARC. I don't know that Venezuela has a underground rebel movement, do they? I've not heard of one. Yeah, it says here your airport screeners and TSA start around 24,000, and most earn between 26 and 35,000 a year. That's some pretty low pay scale, no doubt. Especially consider where these airports are in bigger cities where the inflation is very high. Cost of living is very high in a lot of these places. That's peanuts. So it's not like they're working for a lot to begin with. But private security could do it better, for sure. Airlines just don't. Airlines just allowed the feds too much into their business. All right, folks, we better get out of here for a Friday. Have a good weekend. Thanks for checking in. Everybody had a good discussion out there in the side chat. Good comments. We'll keep an eye on things. How's Tommy Boy's stock market doing right before we get out of here? It looks like we're down 171 or something. Down 122, just slightly down. Nothing crazy for a Friday. All manageable stuff. No chaos yet. We'll see what happens the rest of the day. But thanks for checking in here and discussing things. We'll see how long this government shutdown drags on, what the impacts are. It's basically wait and see, because we're in uncharted territory. Hey, Chipper66, hey, thanks for checking in. You have a good weekend, too. All right, you guys know what to do. Live free.